This year, Morris Cars celebrate the centenary of the manufacturing of its first car. One of its most iconic cars is the Miner, which was launched some 65 years ago. I've owned a few over the years, but this one has a certain affinity with Cornwall. It was the late Sir Alec Ezegoni whose brilliant design was launched in 1948. They were a sort of classless car, that everybody had one. And then Alec Ezegoni then went on to design the Mini, which also became a classless car. There was no chassis, but an all-in-one body shell with independent front suspension and rack and pin steering, which made it light and easy to drive. The jelly mould shape was like nothing else around at the time. Mark Harvard is a one-man band who's been restoring Morris Miners for decades. He's one of many who knows these cars inside out and back to front.
They had this nice rasping exhaust note that people used to just like to hear. And there's the typical Britishness of them, especially the countrymen, the travellers, the ones with the woodwork on, and people just they were like no other car around.
Could you tell me a bit about the history of the Morris Miner?
They started making them in 1948 and they finished in 1971. And they were very popular cars the whole way through. It did tail off towards the end, but they still had a very faithful following with people that wanted something very basic, simple, and that they could do home repairs on. His first model was too narrow, so they widened it by 3 inches, which is why in the middle of the bonnet they have that wider...
Oh, the strip
mark
down the middle, so they sort of stretched it, sort of
thing.
He
got in there with Lord Nuffield, they must have both been broad people, and Lord Nuffield said, there's not enough room in these cars, Alex, can you make them wider? So that's what happened.
I came to see Mark some 10 years ago to buy a Morris Miner, and it turns out the Morris Miner I bought had quite a bit of Cornish history. It all began with a late-night visit to Portlow. Well, Mark, can you tell me the story about Lucy?
At the end of a long day when I travelled across the country, and my last port of call was this little village in Cornwall. And it was so small, this cute village, that I had to leave my car and trailer at the top of the hill because the trailer was too wide for your little roads. And I looked at the car in this dark garage that wouldn't start, and I was thinking, crikey me, what decision should I make here? And anyway, she opened the garage door and it's quite dark in there and I couldn't see a lot. I saw a little bit of rust on the boot lid and the tires were a bit low, and I walked around the car and I thought, I'm going to have to take a bit of a guess here. Put the car on the trailer and left from Cornwall all the way back to Kent with this.
And then fast forward a couple of months.
Yes, I'd done the paint work to it, a little bit of welding and the full mechanical works, and re-MOT'd it. And then you came round and decided of all the cars I had, that was the colour you preferred. So I remember asking you for a address and I thought, wow, this car's going back to Cornwall, where it came from.
The reason I bought Lucy, as she became known, was because my very first car at 17 was a Morris Miner convertible. And driving her back to Cornwall, it evoked memories of my early motoring days, of our gentler time and the famous steering wheel wobble. Although I almost didn't make it, but not because of the car. Lucy was in need of some liquid refreshment, not least me too, after a long drive. And I pulled into this garage on the Roseland, where a problem arose.
I asked you, where did you get your car from?
You did, didn't you?
That's right.
Why was that?
Well, because the owner came from, as I knew, from Portlow. And I've been down on several occasions and brought it back and MOT'd it in various jobs. And then suddenly you've come out of the blue and...
He'd sold it up country, didn't he?
That's right.
I needed some petrol to get to Port Scatho, And I got a telling off. You thought I'd nicked it, didn't
That's
you?
right, yeah.
You've looked after it for many, many years, and it's been a very, very special car. And while you're here, I think one or two fuses need fixing. Can you have a look at that?
We'll have a look at that, shall we?
Thanks.
One of the beauties of the Morris Minors is its simplicity and basic technology. It was often said you could simply mend it with a hammer.
I'll see if everything goes now.
Right.
And many were known, even me, to replace a broken fan belt with a pair of tights. And so, having narrowly escaped being collared by the Cornish Constabulary, I got Lucy home to Port Scaffo, where she's lived happily for the last 10 years. And if there's one thing that the cars themselves love, is being surrounded by others. So what better way to celebrate the centenary of Morris cars by getting a couple of friends round?
If you think Morris Minors are about vicars, ladies in Miss Marple hats and cream teas, think again.
The Cornish Morris Minors Owners Club have around 100 members, and they meet about once a month. An opportunity to get bumper to bumper with their Cornish companions.
We're not actually affiliated to the national club, we're a club in our own right. This is the way Cornish people do things. We do static displays and we have auto jumble twice a year, which is like a jumble sale for car bits, and we raise money for local charities every year. We've been going since 1979. Some people have one car, some have 3 or 4. People love them. I think they've got a happy sort of disposition, the cars, and it brings out the best in people. Smile and wave. On the King Harry ferry this morning on the way over, I had some Russian sailors admiring it, and they were asking me how you pronounce the name, so they got Morris in the end.
Well, I've always loved them. I learnt to drive in one, and this is our 4th, and there is a real camaraderie amongst the club. We have lots of fun. We go out on trips and, days out.
Well, they're very reliable and seem to be quite a few of them still around, so they must have been, quite a good car.
Learned to drive on one years ago, yes, and I've had several on and off since. We like them because you can get the spare parts for them quite easily. This one I actually bought for when I retired. There's a little interest. We like
it's
to
his
take.
toy.
It's my toy. Yeah, we like to take it to classic shows and that sort of thing.
A lot of people go past, toot their horn, and have a good laugh.
Yeah.
We had one back in the 70s, and he was getting a bit rough and got rid of it. But when we sort of fancied something to do, we got this one, and it was a local car, and I knew it from new, and. I think he's 46 years old and he's done 43,000.
When I'm filling up with petrol or going to the supermarket, you get people looking around your car and wanting to know how old it is and what a lovely condition it is.
I had one years ago and it fell apart, so on my 60th birthday I treated myself to another one, which is this one. It's just an iconic British car, easy to work on. You know everything about it, you know where the bits are. And I particularly enjoyed the wood. I think the traveller with the wood makes it a bit special. He likes it because it gets into a walk. Basically, we walk around the Lizard and West Cornwall, and it's nice for him to have a trip in the car.
When we go out anywhere, she always sits by the door of Edith to say, "Is it that car today?"
We were eating fish and chips, and with my son, and somebody came past and said, "Oh, look, a Morris 1000 with somebody eating fish and chips inside it." And my son said, "Crikey, that was amusing."
So it's obvious the passion Morris Minors owners have for their cars is second to none.
That one is only Cornish registered one, yeah.
GRL, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it appears they enjoy travelling the narrow roads of Cornwall just as much as their drivers do. So maybe my Lucy was trying to tell me something.
Quite simply, it's the car that couldn't leave Cornwall.